Welcome to your partner in Success Radio. I am Denise Griffitts, and my guest today, Dr. Anna Marie Frank, also known as the Mindset Doctor, works with high-achieving professionals to break through mental roadblocks, overcome internal barriers, and create more fulfilling, expansive lives by reshaping thought patterns and reconnecting with the body's innate wisdom. I love that. Our sponsor today is Diana Fritz. What does it take to lead when life gets hard? The answer: grace, resilience, influence, trust. That's grit, Grit. And it's exactly what Diana Fritz coaches into leaders every single day. Diana is an executive coach, speaker, and cancer survivor and thriver, with over 25 years of experience helping people stop managing their way through life and start leading it. And she'll meet you exactly where you are and help you own your own story. And do me a favor, check out her book. I have it. I highly recommend it. It is uniquely imperfect, uniquely qualified. You can find it on Amazon, or you can book a free 15-minute consultation at let me spell it. It's GritUIUQ.com. Lead with grit. So back to my guest, Dr. Anna Marie Frank. With over 20 years of experience, she blends neuroscience, natural medicine, and mindset work through her 6 R's success. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. I'll get her to tell me if I'm right or wrong. 6 R's Success Rewire Method. And she's also the founder of Happy Whole You. She's the host of the Happy Whole You podcast, which I've been listening to, and author of Stop Bullying Yourself. I have that book in front of me, helping leaders improve performance without sacrificing joy or purpose. You've got to get this book. I love the book. Anna Marie, thank you so much and welcome. And thank you for sending me that book. When I saw the title, Stop Bullying Yourself, I went, oh, that's for me. We all do it, don't we?
Unfortunately, yes, we all do it. You're not alone. All of us who have bullying are bullying ourselves at some point.
And it goes way, way, way back, doesn't it? It's just, I was telling you in the green room, my stepfather told me years ago that I had a big butt. What a thing to say to a teenager, preteen. And I said, and I believed him. And then I started going, I don't think so. I went back to old pictures and I turn around and I look now, it's not true. And I have to constantly still, after all these years, say, is that true? Is that really true? Well, no, it's not. He was an ass. So there you go. That's my complaint for the day.
Yeah, we all have those moments, and it's really interesting how what other people say to us, some of it we download and we keep it within us and we allow it to feed that inner bully, and we keep repeating it, which makes it stronger and stronger. And I think many people don't even realize that this voice is really breaking them down as much as it is. And that's why I named it. I called it the internal bully or your inner bully. You can call it whatever you want. But once we identify it and name it, it's almost like then we get to tame it, which is something I've been working a lifetime on with my mindset and my brain.
Well, I wanted to ask you, why did you write this book? Because the complete title, by the way, for our audience, and it's a big one, but it's important. The whole thing is important. Stop bullying yourself. Identify your inner bully. Get out of your own way. That's in red. And enjoy greater health, wealth, happiness, and success. I'm telling you, when this book landed, I went, and when I get these books, I do the page flip and I read them 2.5 to 3 times. This book landed, I read it right away, the whole thing, because just the title spoke to me.
Yeah. It goes way back. The reason I'll start off with your first question. The reason that I wrote this book was I actually didn't even set out to write a book. I started a Google document for my children. I have 2 children, and I had struggled with my mental health since I was in high school, but not for any apparent reason. And the reason I say that is because on the outside, everything looked fine. My parents were married. I was an athlete. I had friends. I got good grades. I mean, it was pretty much check every box. And I struggled with my mental health for so many years. And I thought to myself, I need to write down and document what I've done to really try and heal my own brain. And that's what I started to do when I wrote this book and I was writing it for my kids. Because at first, when I started writing it, I didn't know, is this something that happened to me because I was bullied and things like that? Or was this something I was born with? Is depression, mental health, is that something you're born with that you just, it's luck of the draw, right? So, over the years, I've explored both of those questions. Is it something because of what happened to me, or is it how I was born? And that's ultimately why I wrote this book, is because I wanted to give my kids the tools that I used to essentially reprogram my brain, which reprogram the way that I see and view the world. And it's a constant effort and a constant programming. I always say we're downloading every single day. Just like your cell phone, you have all these apps on your cell phone. You download a new app and it's programming your phone. Your brain and your body is constantly receiving downloads. And these downloads come by the thoughts you have, the words you speak, the conversations you partake in, the food you eat are telling your cells what to do. Are you breathing deeply to tell your nervous system to rest, digest, everything's okay? Or are you surface breathing? Are you moving your body and exercising? Every single thing that we do downloads information. And on the flip side, all the things that are around us are downloading information into our biology. So it's like this complex yet simple thing. Ultimately, the environment that we put ourselves in, the way we think about our life, the way we speak about our life, our body is going to reflect that back to us. And so, if I go back to really the first I can remember of my mental health challenges, if you will, the thoughts, that inner bully, it really came out to play, just as you had said, your stepfather said that, you had a big butt and that stuck with
And I
you.
don't. I'm telling you, I don't.
Right.
That is still stuck in my head. I still have to have conversations like, "Denise, that's just
Yes.
not true."
Yes. And what's interesting, do you remember how old you were when that happened?
I was about 12 or 13. Just, about
Yeah.
that age where you're coming into your own body. It worries you because you don't know what's going on. And
Mhm.
he said that to me. It was just a throwaway remark, and I didn't I never could love him.
Mm.
And I can kinda go back to the way he spoke to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's interesting is around 7, 8, 9 years old is when our analytical mind starts coming on, when we realize, I'm not safe, things aren't available to me. You get out of that playful space and you almost step into this worldly reality of right and wrong, good and bad. And then you layer on top of that, around 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, all these hormones. So hormones impact our emotions. So when people say stuff to us, it can cement it in even stronger. Um, so these comments that come and go, and to some people, they're just like not a big deal. They're just off the cuff. They're just saying whatever. They don't realize how it impacts someone. And my first really big, profound moment of when my inner bully woke up was I was in around the second grade. I think I was around 8 years old or so. And in class, when it was reading time, I would hurry up and try to read all the pages if we were reading aloud, like go through and like skim the words to know all the big words before I got called on. Because the last thing I wanted to do was stumble on a word and sound stupid. And I didn't want kids to laugh at me. And so this day in class, I just remember I was reading ahead and looking for those big words. And then my teacher called on me. And she called on me to ask me a question about what I had read. And I didn't know the answer. And the only thing I remember is her pointing her finger at me, saying something along the lines of, "You're never going to amount to anything if you don't learn how to read."
She did not. Did she
Yes.
really? Ah,
Yeah. And in that moment, I was like, "You are so stupid." And here's the thing, I I read all the words. I just couldn't comprehend what I was reading. So it's not that I didn't know how to read. It's that I couldn't comprehend it. It didn't stick in my mind. I mean, I could read all these pages and then my brain would be thinking of 5 other things at the same time. But it's not that I never read it, right? So in my head, I'm just like, "You are so stupid." And what's interesting is that has followed me my entire life. I mean, I've gone all the way in school. I've gotten a PhD. I can't even tell you, Denise, how many certifications I have, and I had to really take
And
a
you're an
step
author, and you're
and
still having that conversation.
yeah.
See, this is why I'm an introvert. I don't like people. I really don't. That was taught to me when I was very young, just no talking. Nobody talk to
Yeah.
me, we'll get along just
Yeah.
fine, and I'm not really serious about that, but words
Mhm.
matter, they're sticks and stones. Let me tell you something, I'd rather you threw a rock at me because I can pick it up and toss it back, but those words, they hurt.
They really do, and they stick. And what's interesting is we allow those single moments of someone else influencing our mindset to shape our current reality and to shape our entire future. And that's what I'm on a mission to help people reprogram. I mean, I ultimately wanted to go to medical school. And because of that moment in second grade, I told myself, you can't do that. You're not smart enough. People like you do not go to medical school. You don't even have enough money. And it was like this whole conversation. And, my dad told me, just go to school, be a teacher. It's the best job in America. And, it's easy. You'll be able to do it. And so I did it. I
Ouch.
actually went to school and really, really wanted to go to medical school and like try, but I'm like, no, not smart enough. So I was a teacher for 10 years. And then I decided to shift into administration and started working on additional schooling and created for the largest high school district in the state of California an employee wellness program. And through that program, I started to study Chinese medicine, energy medicine, holistic health, and really started to dive into these other arenas of self healing. And I'd already started working on this before. And then through that, I ended up working on my PhD. But ultimately, I left that education career after 18 years at 40 years old. And it was like I woke up because I literally allowed, and this is a thing, not only do we allow the negative things, but then we allow the expectations of other people to shape us. So I spent 18 years in education when ultimately I wanted to do what I do today. And everybody's journey, we go through these things and we cannot change the past. But what we get to do is we get to extract the lessons learned from the past and take those into our current moment, into our future. And we get to leave behind all the emotions. So, I had the emotions of life's not fair. Things aren't available to meet people like me. You're not smart enough. You gotta just take what you can get. I took, like, the first job I was offered. I did that many different times. I just took what I could get because 'cause I'm like, "Well, you just take what you can get." And so, again, this inner bully, this programming is there's so many moments where we give it fuel, and these moments are when we allow other people's comments to really feed that, and there's interesting part because I feel like the inner bully can be similar to the ego. They could be one and the same. And again, it's just naming your inner bully if you'd like. And something I've recently discovered is, that inner bully, or we'll call it the ego. The ego gets a really bad rap as if it's the bad thing. But I also think the ego is actually a good thing. So for example, the ego allows us to show up on a podcast and the ego allows me to show up and talk about my life and, and have strangers listen because there's a vulnerability to that. But the ego helps me show up. Um, but then there's this other aspect of us, which is, I call it soul. And, you know, when soul shows up, soul is like, I have something to offer you and I see you. Um, soul says, I need nothing from you. You don't need anything from me, but I'm here to share. I'm here to give with zero expectations. Ego shows up and ego can say, what do you have? I want to see what you have. Compare it to what I have. Give me that. I'm better than you. So there's there's this ego and there's this soul, and I hope people are following what I'm saying. One thing I've recently learned is that the order of which how they show up in relationships, in business, in conversations matter. Anytime you show up with your ego first, thinking, or that inner bully first, thinking, what can I get from you? What do I have to prove to you? What do you want that I have? That always creates a fracture in the relationship, in the business, and the energy. Versus when we show up with soul first, not expecting anything from anyone else, saying, hey, this is just me. I'm not trying to prove anything to you. I'm just sharing with you. That creates an energy of almost like healing, abundance. But I think often we start showing up with our ego more than not because of all of those programs we get when we're younger that our inner bully just says, prove, 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 get, survive, survive, survive. You need, you need, you need. You're lacking, lacking, lacking. That is the inner bully. And that ego will take that and try to show up to protect you first versus saying, ego, I see you. You get to hang out over there. I'll borrow you in the big moments when I need to stand on a stage or stand up in front of my church or talk on a podcast or have that hard conversation with somebody who did hurt me. But I got to show up with soul first. And so that's an interesting thing that I've recently learned. Because the inner bully, there's a certain drive, a certain push, or the ego, there's a certain drive, a certain push that it gives you to be successful, to work hard and to do the things. But like I said, it's when it shows up first, and then it's when it turns on you when you get a level of success or you do something great and it says, oh yeah, but that's still not good enough. You're still not good enough. Maybe you've lost the 10 pounds and you're like, oh, you still have more to lose. You still have a lot more to lose. And that's when it's destructive. And that's what I want to help people end inside their mind, is to realize that they're exactly where they need to be. We're enough already
Right.
and complete. So
You know how
yeah.
I will every once in a while, because we don't know when our ego is stepping all over the place and making messes. I don't think we do. And every
Mhm.
once in a while, I will tell myself, Denise, go take a shower, a hot shower, maybe in the middle of the day. But this is why, because I will get in my shower and I crank that water up hot enough to steam broccoli. I really do. And I take bathtub crayons in there with me because once I'm in the shower, everything stops. I'm not thinking, I'm not overthinking, I'm calming down. My body is calming down, my brain is calming down. And I start getting what I call God winks, like, ooh, these are great ideas. Hang on a second. Is that ego talking? Or because here's what'll happen, because I'll hear myself in my head. Sometimes I'm talking out loud. Oh, I'm going to do this, or we're going to do this. That is 100% ego. I discard it. But if it's a God wink and you can call it whatever you like, but it's this great idea that you go, oh, I've got to write that down. I don't want to kill myself running naked across the house. So I'm going to write inside the shower. But when those happen, that's not ego. That's help. Help is coming.
Mhm.
So that's
I
how but I will deliberately go take a hot shower because I'm pretty sure my ego's in the way and it's getting in my way. So and that's the only way I know how to do it quickly and easily. And what's wrong with a
Mhm.
shower? You get to relax.
First of all, I love that, and I love that you have shower crayons. I'm literally gonna order some
Oh
online when we
yeah,
get off this
yeah.
call.
Do it. I've been
Mine
doing it for years, and once the steam dissipates, it takes a while, but I've got high ceilings, thank goodness. I'll go in with my camera, my phone, and I'll take pictures of it, and then I still got it. Then I clean the walls and off I go.
love it. I get, I get those God winks, those soul callings when I'm driving. It's like this light, gentle awareness of whatever information that just needs to be brought to. And so I
Right.
just, yeah, those are moments that remind me that there's something greater than all of us. And it's a really cool experience when those moments pop in. And they're there for us often. There for us all the time. It's just that we're letting that inner bully, that ego run amok in our minds, and it's just clouding what is trying to come through for us. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that they're like, "I just don't know what my purpose is," or I just don't know, I don't know, I don't know." And that used to be me. I used to have like this burning inner desire that I knew that there was something else for me in my life, but I couldn't put into words. So I would just say, "I don't know, I don't know, I don't know." And
And that
it's like
just
we do,
reinforces you're bullying yourself. I don't know, I don't know.
yeah. So it's just we do know, we just need to get quiet, we need to breathe, and we need to uh, push that ego, that inner bully to the side. There's a really great author. His name is Michael Singer, and I don't know if you've ever read this book. It's called The Untethered Soul. It's a
No, but I'll go
phenomenal.
look for it.
Oh, it's great. He has another book called The Surrender Experiment. But I heard it from him first, and this may come from Buddhism. But he said, "You are not that voice inside your head. That voice inside your head is not you. Who you are is the one that is witnessing that voice." And that took me a minute. I'm like, wow, like from a soul level, I am literally the one that is hovering above witnessing all of those thoughts in my head. So those thoughts are not us. Those are those are pieces of experiences that we've witnessed along the way of this journey here on earth, but they're not who we are. It's just all of this information and this programming that is taken place in our lives. But the thing is we get to decide what we're taking with us or what we're leaving behind. And so when I kind of sit with that, it's like it's crazy because for a long time I was like every thought I had I thought was real. And I thought, oh gosh, and I made it mean something inside of me about me and who I was versus just kind of witnessing the thought and being like, oh, interesting. Interesting, you're saying that thing again. Huh. Versus, oh yeah, that thing is so true. I can't believe I did that. I made that mistake again. I'm such an idiot. Right. So it's definitely a practice that we can all participate in, but knowing that we're the soul that's witnessing the voice inside our head has really helped me again detach from that voice inside my head. I name that voice inside my head, and it helps me have more grace for myself by being the one witnessing that voice. Cause it's like, you don't have to listen to that.
I do that. I'll catch myself thinking the same old thing. It's like this rut inside my brain. I can almost see the rut inside my physical brain. It's like, oh, I need to fill that. I need to put something else in there. But I'll catch myself doing that. So, you've had this conversation before. Knock it off. You know what I do? You're gonna think I'm an idiot. Do you know what a Pishneh is?
I do not.
You do. I bet you do. You just don't know the name of it. We all have that Uncle Bob that shows up at, family reunions and nobody really knows him or likes him. Hang on. I don't want to cough on you. And all of a sudden, somebody will pop up behind you and flick the back of your ear with their middle finger and their thumb. That's a Pishneh. And I had an Uncle Bob. That's not his real name, but he used to do that to all of us. And we just dreaded going to any kind of gathering where he was going to be. He was a nice guy, but he just had this nasty habit. But you know what? It stops you in your tracks. So when I'm doing something in my brain that I know is just, taking that rut and making it deeper, I pee my own ear. It's embarrassing,
Mm.
but it works. It stops me.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's a good one. That is a good one. I never thought about that. Some people have that rubber band
The
around their
rubber
wrist,
band, right.
and they'll snap it. One of the things that I've done that has helped me, oh, tremendously is I love using humor. I will start saying the craziest things in my head, like, "Oh, why would Denise want me on her podcast? You're really not anybody. I mean, you wrote one book, sure, but have you really I mean, come on. Like, her guests, she's had so many other amazing guests." Yeah. If thoughts like that show up, I literally start laughing, and I'm like I call it my valley girl voice, and I'm like, "Oh,
Okay, you
look
have to
at
do
you
it. Do it, do
showing
it.
up." Yeah, like, "Oh, look at you showing up trying to put me down again. Oh, this is so interesting." So I literally start playing with myself, and I get giggly because 'cause I'm like, "This is so wild. You are 43 years old and you are thinking this, you are so funny. You are hilarious that you don't think you're successful or that you're good enough. Oh, that's so interesting." And I literally start like just playing with it and it helps me with so many other things. And it's softened that blow. And now I'm just like, "Oh, girl, you're showing up again. Well, guess what? We don't have time and space for you." And it just really helps me put it to the side and get rid of it sooner. And that's been so helpful for me.
I do
Just
something similar. I'll decide that I'm having a bad moment or I'm in a bad mood, which, it happens. And
Mhm.
the minute I have hear myself in my head say, "I'm just in a bad mood. I'm not happy." I will say, "All right." And I do the timeout thing. And I'll walk myself away from my monitors because I'm always looking at code or looking at something, and I'll walk out, maybe probably outside, and I'll talk to my pecan trees. Why not?
Yeah.
You Or or I go outside and I kick a tire, and then I realize how silly I'm being, and then I start laughing. It lasts about 4 to 5 minutes because I gave myself a timeout, and I, gave myself permission to realize just how ridiculous I'm being. And once I start laughing, it's over, I'm back to work.
Yeah. Yeah, and the best part is it's none of it's true,
I
right? Like,
know.
so I've had some people say, "Oh, well, you're supposed to feel your feelings and you're supposed." I'm like, "Number 1, we're not supposed to do anything. We get to just be." But it's also like, this isn't even true. Why should I feel these things? They're not true. If I attach a feeling and emotion to them that's negative, it'll cement it in my physical body even stronger. So why don't I choose to be playful with it? If it's gonna cement in any way, it's gonna be through joy and love and compassion and grace, not
With
through
me, it
fear, hate,
with me, it's
judgment.
snark. My languages are Southern English, obviously, and snark. And I can get
Mhm.
very snarky with myself because I'm hilarious. It helps me get through the day.
Yeah, it's you gotta play with that voice because we never that voice never stops. Right? So that's what's interesting about it. We just get to choose the perspective in which how we're witnessing it and the meaning that we're giving it. And, what I have also found interesting is that, some people don't want to do this deeper yet more simple. I feel like it's more simple. Maybe because I've been working at it so long. I know in the beginning it feels like you're pushing a boulder up a mountain, but it's it gets easier the more that you practice this. And what I found is that some people would rather be right. And I know there's a quote around this that someone said, would rather be right than be free and be happy. So the only reason we repeat thoughts, negative thoughts inside of our minds is because if we asked ourselves, what if it wasn't true that, you know, that I was overweight? Or what if it wasn't true that I was broke? Or what if it wasn't true that people don't like me? Whatever the thing is that you keep repeating in your life that keeps showing up that gets in the way of you being fully happy, just ask yourself, what if it wasn't true? And for some people, they they don't want to ask themselves that question because if it wasn't true that people didn't like you, then you would need to show up happier. You would need to get out of your house. You would need to go do things more socially. Or if it wasn't true that your ex husband was the reason why you're in financial trouble, if that wasn't true, because you keep blaming him for the financial situation you're in, then you would have to do something about it. I don't know if I explained that clearly, but essentially, we keep repeating the thought because we're blaming something outside of us for our current circumstance. And the more we point the finger outward and blame other people, other things, the more we'll stay the same and we'll stay in this rut. The moment you free it up and say, what if this wasn't true? Or you could say, okay, what if this wasn't an issue? Or what if I moved beyond this? That is the moment you shift gears into I own my life. I get to choose how I'm moving forward in this lifetime. I get to take action towards the very thing I want. And that takes something. Some people would rather complain about their finances and be broke the rest of their lives than realize, you know what? This is my doing. I'm the one, getting Starbucks. I'm the one, you know, spending my money on things that do not fulfill me or are not serving me. I'm the one that is constantly spending money on things that I could do something about. And w- sometimes we don't want to take responsibility for that. I know for a long time I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm depressed because, at 18 my parents said you're out of the house. I had no financial support. I could barely afford college. I had so much stress and, you know, I spent 18 years in education. It's my dad's fault." And it's like, well, no, these are just things that I chose to listen to until I chose to shift out of that and decide something else for my life. And that took something, that took effort to, finally get my PhD and to leave an 18-year career and walk away from a six-figure income and, bet on myself and start my own company. And, but people will easily live years, decades blaming other people, staying the same, staying miserable because they don't want to own up that their life is exactly how they have designed it. And it is exactly what they have made their life up to be based on every single choice that they have made. And yes, I understand unfortunate things happen to all of us. It's a part of this lifetime. However, it's how we choose to respond versus react to those things that really set the tone for our future. And it's not the easiest thing, but it can be easier the more we practice owning exactly where we're at and quit giving all these outside forces so much power over us.
I agree with you, and I wrote down the word curiosity while you were talking, and by that, I mean you have to be curious about what you're thinking, why you're thinking it. Are you familiar with Byron Katie? The
I'm
work of
not.
Byron Katie? Um, I heard her, read her, have her books, and I've had them for a long time, but she said something multiple times that really stuck with me, and I operate that way today, and she says, "Ask yourself, is this true? Is it
Mhm.
really true?" And I do that multiple times a day because half the time, more than half the time, it's just pure baloney. It's just, my old programming popping up, or it's just me being, a little brat, as my mom would say. But, most of the time it's just not true. So get rid of it. Stop it. Condition yourself. Do whatever you have to do and move on to something that is true. But it takes
Yes.
awareness. It takes, curiosity. And I wanted to ask you too, because you're a high achiever, I am as well. Why are we so often our own worst critics? What's that all about?
Honestly, I think it's just the programming that we have. I think that I do think some people are on a mission from a calling to do some more out there work. Like you're doing what I call out there work. I don't think anyone's calling is bigger than any others. Some people's callings are to be the best caretaker and rescue, dogs and cats. And that is their big calling. Some people, their calling is to have a child and raise that child. Some people, they have a calling to start multiple businesses and employ hundreds or maybe thousands of people. I don't think that anyone's calling is what we would consider here on earth bigger than the other. I think they're all important and they're all needed. I think some of us that have multiple callings for doing multiple things can tend to be way harder on ourselves because there's so much to do in so little time. At least that's what we're telling ourselves. And so this kind of turns into what we would call a high achiever. But if you ask me, and I've met some stay-at-home moms that I'm like, holy high achiever. Like they are programmed very differently than me, but they are literally killing it with what they're doing, how they're helping their kids and keeping a nice home and, being a great wife. And I'm over here being like, whoa, but in our society, we say, well, if you do X, Y, and Z, you're doing bigger things. And I don't necessarily think that's the truth. I think that if we have multiple facets to our calling, then we can be what we consider this high achiever in this lifetime. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but I definitely don't think that one calling is more important than the others. Um, I think there's an urgency around people that have multiple things that they're supposed to fulfill in this lifetime, though. Does that make any sense?
Y- Yeah, I'm sorry. I muted you accidentally. I didn't mean to. What we're talking about here, what I'm taking away from this, and I've had so many people on this show like you who do so many different things and we do it well. And it doesn't occur to us to say, well, I just need to do one thing, or, I've got way too much to do. We're just doing. And the more we do, the more we learn and the more we're able to share.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, yes, and
Okay.
I think that that's a really important piece is there's a vulnerability piece of learning and sharing and putting information out there, and I do think that many people hold back from doing that, and that's unfortunate, but it's really imperative that we share our stories, that we share our lessons, because all that does is it helps. In my mind, I look at it as collapsing time and evolving people further and more forward much quicker. This is why I love that people write books because, people can write a book. Like I remember Darren Hardy's book, I think it was called The Compound Effect. I read
I
that in my
have it.
early,
Yeah, I've
yeah,
got it.
I read that in my early 20s and it was, oh my gosh, if I had these habits and things that I did more consistently, it would compound and make me move the needle faster in my life. I wouldn't have gotten that lesson had I not read that book. And then, and it's similar to, I would say, James Clear's book, Atomic Habits.
Atomic, yep, I've got it too.
Yeah.
I was just
So,
reading it a couple of weeks ago. In fact, I've got it on Audible.
yes. So it's like, these books just like, I feel like everybody has a book in them. Everyone does. But yet we're holding it back. We're not sharing it with the world. And so I think the more we can share and talk about things and get things out there, it's just so helpful and it helps us get out of our own way. It helps us push that inner bully to the side because anytime that we are learning, that we are evolving, that we are becoming more as a human and as a soul, that inner bully gets silenced. You don't have time for it. It pushes it to the side. And that's a really powerful
Yes.
place to be in practice. And I
Right,
wish
and even when you're talking out loud to yourself, which I do a lot. I live alone, well, not really, I have feline office assistants, I just pay the mortgage and a dog, but I'm always talking out loud because I don't know who can hear me. I know that I'm not alone. I may be physically alone in my home, but I'm not alone ever. I'm talking to the ceiling fan, I'm talking to the cats, I may be talking to my cupboards. But by doing that, I'm clearing out things in my head, like, because I can hear myself say, "Oh, that's good. What the heck was that?" And it allows me, when I'm speaking out loud, to either grab a pad, write it down, or just sometimes laugh at myself because I was like, "What the heck was that?" It's just talk, speak, get it out of your closed in head.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's moving energy. That's moving information versus letting things feel stuck and feel heavy. And I do think that's why we were given a voice, because if we just allowed thoughts to stay in our head and we never talked about them, that's when we feel like we wanna, like, explode inside. At least for me, that's
No,
that's
I
how I
agree
feel.
with you. I've got to speak out loud, and people will say, "Denise, you're very quiet." I'm really not. Trust me, I'm not. I wanted to ask you, perfectionism and overachievement, that actually impacts brain chemistry, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, yes. It's kind of like, an what we call an OCD type of
Mhm.
trait. Yes. Yeah, I find with clients I work with, many clients that are experiencing perfectionism and OCD also have digestive issues. I also
Really?
yes,
I would not have thought of that.
I also notice if I have them stick out their tongue, because remember, I'm a naturopath, so I combine not just the mindset stuff, but what is your physical body telling us? What is the information it's sharing? If you stick out your tongue and let it relax, if they can't allow their tongue to relax and it sits there and it quivers, that's usually what I call like you're burning the candle at both ends, like kind of adrenals. Um, but what I find with the perfectionism and OCD is often they're not allowing themselves like they're not allowing themselves to trust in the process of life.
Oh, sorry.
Trying
I did
to
cough on you.
you're good. Trying to control every outcome, trying to control the environment. And I will say, I used to be this person. I still find myself with my kids, like, wanting to almost control everything. And it's like, you cannot control everything with your children. They're going to live, they're going to fall, they're going to make mistakes. Um, you cannot control everything. And I find that when I feel like I don't have control, is when I have to really sit back and breathe, or maybe I should jump in a hot shower because there's nothing we're supposed to control anyways. But that feeling of being not having control and needing things to be perfect is ultimately what I've found is making us or not making it. It's where we're not trusting in the process of life. And so what this does is it turns on what's called the amygdala in your brain. This is the emotional center of our brain. It's called worry, worry, worry. And the reality is when we're in that part of our brain, it cuts us off from using what's called our prefrontal cortex. This is our executive function thinking. So as we're trying to micromanage everything and perfect everything and control everything, we're actually missing a bigger picture of what could be possible because we're essentially stuck in the weeds, I guess you could say. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does. And listen, I'm following along because everything you're talking about, I've done or I will do again because I haven't learned my lesson. But pay attention. And negative talk, anxiety, burnout, even illness. I firmly believe that we bring so much of that on ourselves. You know, I'll give you an example. And I hear people say this. I've done it to myself. I've got a headache. Now I do because I
Right.
just gave myself permission to have a headache. You know,
Mhm.
I just,
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I don't get sick ever. I just don't. And I don't know why. I think probably because I just don't think about it. I don't allow it into my life. Plus, I live blissfully alone and cooties don't come walking in the door every night. So there's that. But I just don't get sick. And I'm very pleased with that. And I intend to keep it that way.
Yeah, I believe that the body is always following the mind, and your body is reflecting back to you the very story you've been telling yourself.
That's what I was trying to say. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And I'll hear people say, "Oh, I just don't feel good." And I just want to grab them and shake them and say, "Do you know what you just did to yourself? Don't do that." Honestly, Anna Marie, if you get sick in my house, I don't have any prescription medications except for the cats. And when those are done, the bottle goes away. If you get sick in my house, you have apple cider vinegar, unbuffered
Mhm,
aspirin. I won't help,
mhm.
I'm not going to share my Benadryl because I am allergic to flying insects and I live in the deep south. They'll get you. But if you're gonna get sick in my house, you're gonna have to drive yourself to a pharmacy. I can't help you.
Yeah, yeah,
But
and
part of it is I just refuse. I refuse to be sick.
mhm. Yeah, I learned that I found this very interesting, that you can change your biochemistry, meaning the chemicals in your blood, in 150 to 300 milliseconds by shifting a thought alone. That is literally the blink of an eye, a snap of a finger. You have that much control over your biology. And
I think they talk about that in the Heart Math Institute.
oh, interesting. I've heard of heart math before.
Oh, go find them. Seriously. And when we talk, I'll share, an audiobook that I've been listening to that talks about that. It's
Mhm.
amazing. Okay, keep going.
Oh, no, I okay, so what's interesting is I have what we call 99.9% success rate with people coming to either my center or working with them that improve at least one category of their health and well-being in one session. And it's not because what I do is super special. It's ultimately pointing back to the client that I'm working with because everybody has this within themselves, that you get to shift that biology. You get to shift that story. You get to rewrite the programming in you at any moment, at any time. And so all I do is I work with people on clearing the muck and clearing the story of whatever they've been telling themselves of why their life is the way it is. And the moment we go through this and do this, and I use a few different strategies to do this and practices, but they walk away from their session feeling better, like physically better. And I'm going to give you a quick story. I was in my early 20s, and this is a big reason of why I do what I do today. I was in my early 20s. I already shared with you about the second grade teacher. And then in high school, I started to feel depressed. But like back then, you didn't say I'm depressed. You didn't call it depression. I had, like I said, check every box. I was an athlete. I got good grades, good parents, all of that. And then I told myself, once you graduate high school, just go to college and then you'll be happy and you can reinvent yourself. So, of course, I go to college and still not happy, still not okay inside. And then I'm like, oh, once you graduate from college, you'll get a job, you'll actually make some money, then you can reinvent yourself. And oh, you got this offer to go to California. Yes. Okay, move from Michigan to California. Once you get to California, then you'll be happy. Well, again, I was chasing the carrot for happiness, looking outside myself for happiness. I was in my early 20s and I thought, wow, you know, you're depressed, you don't feel good, you have health insurance. So why don't you just go to the doctor and get some medicine? This is going to fix you. And I'm like, okay, I couldn't wait to get to the psychiatrist, to get in there, have him prescribe to me the medications that would make me feel happy and energized and whole again. And I was going back and forth to the psychiatrist month after month. He was changing my meds, going back and forth. And I still wasn't okay inside. And I remember the last time I went, I was headed to my appointment, like, okay, I'm going to have him change. I was on 3 mind altering medications at the time. I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell him these ones aren't working. And I'm like planning in my head, my control. I'm going to have him prescribe me something different. Da 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 da. And I remember I was sitting in the waiting room that day and it was like the wall started to cave in on me. And I was looking around the room and it was like everyone was kind of hovered over, almost embarrassed to be there, shoulders kind of dragging forward and down. And back then we didn't have cell phones. So it's not like people were hovering over looking at their cell phone. That's not what was happening. Nobody was making eye contact. And I remember I was waiting 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes for my appointment. I was getting more and more frustrated. And finally, I got called back and I go in the room like I'd done many times before. I sit down in that brown leather chair and I noticed for the first time, he didn't even make eye contact with me. He didn't even look at me. And he opened my chart and just started asking me questions. Do you want to hurt yourself? Do you want to hurt other people? Do you see things? And then his cell phone rang. He pulled out his flip phone and answered a call, started talking to somebody, and acted as if I was not even there. I was feeling so frustrated. And I'm like, this guy's just like, I already waited 40 minutes for an appointment. He's taking a call during my session. And I remember my heart was beating so fast and I was like starting to sweat and I felt like I was going to explode inside. And finally, he got off the phone and he went straight back to the line of questioning. And I ended up standing up, which took every ounce of me to do. And I said, I have to go. And I'm sure my voice probably cracked a million times. And he looked at me like confused. And I said, I don't appreciate you taking a call during my session. And he was like, sorry, as if like he was not sorry at all. And he looked kind of confused. And then he went back into the line of questioning. And I'm like, I need to leave. And he pulled out of my folder the prescriptions. He had already written them before I even got there. And he handed them to me. And I walked out and I had them in my hand. And I remember I was walking back by the front desk where you checked in. And they even had plexiglass over this front. This is before COVID. They had like plexiglass, like to protect the workers from, I guess, the crazy people like me. And I remember there was this.
Or the ticked off people. I would have torn it up, thrown it in his face, and said, I'm not paying this.
Well, I ended up throwing those prescriptions in the little gray trash can right there by where you checked in.
Good for you.
And I remember walking outside. I pushed through the doors, I walked outside, and I was in this courtyard. And it was like the sky was blue for the first time. The trees were green. And I remember I felt like this wave of emotion and I felt this weight completely drop off my body. And it was like, I knew in that moment, I'm the only person that can make myself happy or choose happiness. And I felt so energized and so light and free. I hadn't felt that in years. And that was from literally throwing those prescriptions in the trash, pretty much giving them the middle finger, walking out those doors and realizing I just took my gosh dang power back in my life. And that was a defining moment when I set forth on a journey. I'm like, if we can reprogram computers. I can reprogram my brain. Like, I can do this. And I started to really like pay attention to how I was thinking about my life, how I was speaking about my life. I started to surround myself with different people. I started to exercise for enjoyment versus punishing my body and telling myself, well, you ate this, so you have to exercise this long on the treadmill. I started to, work out and move my body for joy and eat for energy and just everything. I started to just shift and change because I started to show up for myself and I was just choosing happiness. I was choosing joy because it's right there for us no matter what. And I think the real win in life, and this might also be from Michael Singer's work too, is the being okay inside, no matter what's going on around you. And that takes something, but at the same time, it's like, okay, even if you didn't get that promotion, being okay inside, even if, there was an, unfortunate circumstance, being okay inside. And I think that's where my faith comes in. That's where my belief of something bigger is here for us and beyond us. And my ability to trust in the process of life and let go of this need for control and for perfection and really just embrace the imperfections of this lifetime. And yeah, that was a huge moment, but at the same time, it reminds me every day that we get to choose how our body is functioning, how our biology is functioning, how we are feeling by how we're choosing to think and speak about our lives.
While you were talking about when you went out and you in the courtyard, things were clear, you could everything was green, you could smell. That's grief. You were shedding grief.
Mm, mhm. Yeah.
I mean, it's been there. I've been there. When I was going through a horrible period of grief in my life. It was 2 years to the day practically. All of a sudden, it felt like somebody squeegeed my eyeballs. I could see again. It was the darndest
Mm,
thing. But I just wrote
mm,
down grief. I mean, what you were talking about, and I kept thinking that word, grief. We grieve for ourselves. We grieve for what we've done to ourselves. We grieve for what we've allowed other people to make us or help us think poorly of ourselves. And I think once you get past that, you're on the road. You're on the road to health. Listen, I need for you to come back. I've got so many. Wanted to talk about rewiring the mind and the cost of inner criticism and some practical applications. I mean, there's so much in this book that I want you to share with people. So, can you come back? Maybe I'm booked now through August, so maybe in the winter.
yes, I would love to. I
Okay,
would be honored.
great. Yeah, we'll talk. And I'm going to call you in just a little bit because I have another audio that I wanted to share with you that I've been listening to. But anyway, before, and I want to stay out of your way because there's so much to talk about what happens physically and emotionally when we stay stuck in these patterns and, you know, burnout, illness. We talked about that a little bit, but very quickly, what is one simple step that our listeners can take today to start shifting their inner dialogue? How can someone catch themselves in the act of self bullying and redirect it?
Mm. Well, number one, when that inner bully comes in, if you can go outside and change your environment immediately, that's helpful. And because that changes your chemistry. And then taking, if you can go outside, and if you can't go outside, just do this wherever you're at. Taking like 2 or 3 deep breaths and asking yourself, what's possible if this wasn't true? Or what's possible if I chose to let this go? And just sit with your breath and then ask those questions. And then you get to discover, because it helps you get to that prefrontal cortex of your brain, and it helps you get to seeing a bigger picture of what's possible. But anytime we ask ourselves that open ended question, it takes us out of that emotional part of our brain, which is where the inner bully thrives and lives. And, but that is one of the things that can really, really help us get out and shift gears out of that amygdala into that prefrontal cortex to help ourselves.
And if you can, and you're not in the middle of a break room with all your workers listening to you, say it out loud. Because I have found, and I think you know this too, if we're just thinking in our mind, that's like a highway with, 14 clover leaves above you. I mean, it's just insane. It's like trying to drive through Houston or Dallas. But if you're saying out loud, you can really only concentrate on one thing at a time.
Yeah, I love that too. Absolutely.
Listen, before I let you go, and I really do want you to come back, if you could leave our audience with one final thought, maybe something that didn't come up in our conversation today, or really something you want people to walk away from with this episode, what would that be? And then where can our listeners find you?
Well, this is brand new from what you said with that grief, but I think to give ourselves grace, because I think you're exactly right. I think what we're grieving is not just the loss of our innocence, but we're grieving the forgetting of that we get to be happy, that we get to be playful, that we get to have fun in this life. And I think that's what we're grieving. Because at the end of the day, I know everybody really truly wants happiness. And to get to that happiness, we have to be whole and be okay inside. And that choice is up to you. It's up to us to do that. So reminding yourself that you are grieving, but you didn't really lose all that. You didn't lose the innocence. You didn't lose the playfulness. You didn't lose the joy. It's within you. You just get to choose to start accessing it on a more regular basis.
And deliberately.
Yes. Yes. And then, oh, did you ask where they can find me? Are you there?
I am.
Okay.
Did you hear any of that?
I did not.
Oh, well, okay, let's try again. Where can people find you? I want them to go find your book because it's a phenomenal book. Where can they find you, read you, hear you?
Yes. So you can hear me on Audible. I'll read the book to you if you prefer Audible. Or you can go to happywholeyou.com to get the book or drannamarie.com to get the book. And then I'm on social media on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. Um, Happy Whole You on Instagram is my company, my brick and mortar in Bakersfield, California. And then my personal Instagram is dr.annamarie. And yeah, I'd love for you to find me, order the book, or listen to the audible if it calls to you. And I'd love to hear what you got out of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm losing my voice. This has been a powerful conversation, and today we talked about how many high achievers like me we're not truly burned out, but we're caught in patterns of harsh self-criticism, and that affects not just mindset, but brain chemistry, health, and relationships. And Dr. Anna Marie Frank shared, I seriously cannot talk, how changing that inner dialogue can truly shift everything from how you lead to how you live, and how reconnecting with your body's wisdom, and that's important, how reconnecting with your body's wisdom can help you create a more balanced and meaningful kind of success. So if you found yourself nodding along at any point, this is definitely an episode that you will want to revisit. So find her at happywholeyou.com on LinkedIn, and she's generously offering her, generously offering our listeners 30% off site wide with the code POD 3030 off. And thank you for joining me today on your part in Success Radio. And be sure to connect with Dr. Anna Marie. And until next time, keep moving with purpose and intention. Anna Marie, thank you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.